Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the review show. Great day of racing today at Caulfield, featuring heavily in this review show will unsurprisingly be that girl, Pride of Jenny. She was an absolute star. Let's get on with the track recap. So it was quite evident early on that you wanted to be swooping down the middle of the track, and that was the pattern for most of the day, probably except for Pride of Jenny's race. It was quite evident from the first race when Caulfield came swooping down the outside, and I think after the Landmark race where Just for Show and Landmark both came down the middle, that's when I concluded and said to myself, yeah, you need to be off the fence. Oak Hill and Pride of Jenny defied that bias. They're just good horses, I reckon. Let's get on with the performance tier list. So this is the performance tier list based off my rating system, and the star race of the day and horse of the day, Pride of Jenny, clearly on top. Oak Hill and Sunshine in My Pockets races I had rating well. The races that rated all right were Immediacy, Rogan, and then Landmark, Here Comes the Star, and Caulfield, and the one that rated a little bit poorer than everything else was Caulfield in race number 4. That was a bit of a sit and sprint. We'll get onto that a bit later. This is the highest rated performance of the card, and it's unsurprisingly Pride of Jenny. This was her win in the anniversary Vase. She went to the front. She was only a length and a half off in front of Regal Zeus, and I thought actually the 400 metres, Regal Zeus might have been travelling a little bit better than Pride of Jenny. However, Regal Zeus died in its run, and Pride of Jenny, as she usually does, just keeps on going, and she kept on going today to win and score comfortably. Never looked like losing from about the 300 metres. I reckon when Regal Zeus started falling back, there was nothing emerging out of the pack to run her down. She Light ran well. Helsing got held up very late. Pounding was a solid run, but there was no catching Pride of Jenny. A big win with a big weight. The next highest performance race I had was race number 5, won by Oak Hill. This horse was absolutely dominant, running. I got an inside run at the top part of the straight, and whether the fence was the right place to be or not was tested, because Oak Hill was a really good horse, and it managed to go straight up the inside and win by a length and a half, showing that it's just way better than this field. I think it can tackle a low-grade stakes race and be highly competitive. Oak Hill sort of reminds me a bit of Arkansas Kid, in the same colours for the same trainer. Just reminds me a bit of Arkansas Kid around the same distance. And Arkansas Kid gets to a good level. So Oak Hill is, well, it's a good horse. The other high rating race I had was the last race. It was Sunshine in My Pocket. She flew down the outside as he needed to be during the day to win. Molly Nickers was also very good down the middle of the track. Hughes, look, 3 wide no cover probably isn't too bad at Caulfield today, because out wide is where he needed to be, but gee, Logan Bates, if he had have had his time over again, he would have got cover, one off the inside. Sunshine in My Pocket is another horse that I think can tackle a low-grade stakes fillies and mares race. It could target an Empire Rose in the spring, get up to 1,600 metres and go through all the, Let's Elope stakes at Flemington and all that. So, yeah, Sunshine in My Pocket is another very progressive young mare who delivered today. The low rating race I had today was Caulfield's race, not by a significant margin, but it was a bit of a sit and sprint in that race, and that probably didn't like it in the rating system. Caulfield had the absolute perfect run, only just got past Ruta Royale, but I think Ruta Royale with the sit and sprint, it was well suited. It was a bit of a, race. Caulfield, as I said, had a good run in transit. Ruta Royale had every chance, and those two horses fought out the finish. Ride of the daytime I've given to Patrick Maloney today on Rogan in race number 7. He made a brilliant tactical move to kick up at about the 1,200 metres or 1,400 metres and keep the Muffin Man, who was the favourite, 4 wide no cover. So Rogan was able to poke his little nose in that little gap and the Muffin Man was stuck 4-1 no cover, so that was pretty much the Muffin Man's chances out the window. And then he waited for the Muffin Man to go so he could get the Muffin Man's back, and then he scorched home in the straight. Only just got there on the line, won by 0.02 lengths, but it was a good win at a big price from Rogan. He'll be hard to beat when he goes to the Brisbane, Queensland Winter Carnival. This is the forgive file from today at Caulfield, in my opinion. Out of race 2, Atlantic Spirit had no luck, held up behind Gracie's Reign. I thought Scampy, off a 6-day break, the track was just too firm for it. Symphony of Colour pulled up with EIPH, so it was a forgive run. No strings attached, wasn't suited with the sit and sprint. I still thought it ran pretty well with 60 kilos. United Nations in race number 6 had no luck behind Immediacy, and I thought Hot Majesty over the 2,000 metres was just too keen, so that was also a forgive run. Blackbooker time. I try to look for hidden gems rather than the obvious ones. This is the main hidden gem I found today. Race 2, Avebury. This horse was having its second up run this afternoon for the Anthony and Sam Friedman yard, and it settled outside the leader, had every chance, but I just thought it wasn't suited by the Sydney Sprint. Gracie's Reign really slowed it up during the mid-stage of the contest. I just think Avebury over the 1100 metres couldn't go with them when the sprint went on, and you'll be able to see through the line in this replay. It savages the line, and through the line it's going better than anything. So I think third up it'll be hitting peak fitness next start, either 1200 metres or 1400 metres or 1300 metres next start will do, and I think Avebury might be a bit of a hidden gem that we can get a price about next start as a black booker. The other obvious black bookers out of today that I won't show the replays for is Just for Show out of race number 3 with a big weight. It was really good. Testing landmark, it'll improve with the run. And then also out of race 5, Twin Perfection, but Oak Hill's a star. Twin Perfection, if Oak Hill isn't in that race, wins that race, and it was only first up. So Twin Perfection and Just for Show, the obvious ones. Avebury's the most interesting one. Salmonators unit play recap, made profit again for the 5th week in a row, plus 8.87 units. Tabs winning was really good. By the time Tabs got up, we'd made profit no matter what. Immediacy won, lovely looking one. Floozy won. 4 winners from 10 races, so strike rate of 40%. Makes us profit for another week, so onwards and upwards to next week. Time for our 3 stars of the week somewhere throughout the country in Victoria. This was, the replays were pre-recorded when before today's meeting, and Scampy was in it from Ballarat on Sunday. This was its win. It's a bit awkward now because Scampy ran today and performed under market expectations, but this was a brilliant win over 1,000 metres. Kicked up along the inside, missed the start slightly, but kicked up along the inside and blew this field away. Obviously, it seems better than this grade. Ran today at Caulfield, and even though, had every chance, I thought over towards the inside might not have been well suited, and the fact that it was pretty much a good 3 by that stage of the day, I think it needs softer ground, so I think we can follow Scampy next start back to 1,000 metres on a softer track. Hopefully it finds that. Just send it up to the northern states. It's always heavy up there, and we might see an improved performance. Out of Wangaratta yesterday, Ben Brisbane has unearthed a very nice horse, Sea Strike. This was its win yesterday in the red and white colours, winning by 3.5 lengths over 2,000 metres. It ran it ran 2 starts ago in a Sandown race over 2,400 metres behind Sparkle Link and wasn't disgraced there. Went to Wangaratta yesterday with the 60.5 kilos and bolted away from them. I'm hoping that next start it can find a benchmark 70 over 2,400 metres somewhere in the metro area, and if it can replicate what it did yesterday, I want to be with it. And this one is a bit of a tread with caution because it was a 1,000 metre race at Seymour last Sunday. You're Too Vain. I was just really impressed with this because it was on debut. It's sprinted away from them. I think the 1,000 metres is right up this horse's alley. Wins by 5 lengths in the end. My rating system usually loves 1,000 metre races. That's why I'm a bit sceptical with this horse. Look, I'm not sure where they're going to go next. If they stick at 1,000 metres, I'll be keen to be with it. Hopefully they find either a benchmark 58 or a 0 to 64 or something like that. Just keep it in a winnable race, and I think it can win again. That was the review show for another week. This is everything on one page that we've been through. Pride of Jenny. She did it today. Can she back that up? Well, we'll see. It didn't work last time in the Australian Cup. They're probably going to progress to Queensland now to see where she's at and try and go for a Doomben Cup or a Hollandale or something like that. So we'll see how Pride of Jenny goes up there. Thanks everyone again for watching, and until next week's review show, bye for now.